Our final speaker today is Dana Dardis. Dana is an activist, artist, poet, avid hiker, fisherwoman, small business owner, teacher, mother, and lover of life and all those things outwardly and inwardly own. She's traveled and lived all over Asia, Europe, and the U.S. of America, including this awesome state, Alaska, where she has lived for 14 years. And her pronouns are she, her, hers.
So my greatest respect for the first people of these lands and to recognize their enduring relationship to the land and water of Cook Inlet. I would like to acknowledge the Dena'ina, Alutiiq, and Supiaq of Alaska that Dena'ina, Alutiiq, and Supiaq of Alaska's South Central region have been in community here long before the occupation of settler culture, past and present. Thank you for hosting us. I am so grateful. And I'd like to thank my friend Deborah Call for helping me. I would first like to share a creative prose that I wrote about a recent experience, and I asked my colleagues' permission. It's called One Gook, One Salmon Cruncher. White women's anger. Paper slammed down on us, made heavy from including us in writing that makes white skin thin. Pointing white fingers, I was surprised. We were surprised. Still this. I know when I looked at their blue eyes, I looked surprised. They looked righteous. They looked glorious and brave. Then I turned to look at my colleague. I could see it deep in her soft brown eyes, the eyes of her ancestors. I could see those pointing white fingers historically imprinted in her eyes. Out of fear, somehow, white defenses gone up, ears closed, ignoring facts. The rage, not ours, but theirs. The rage masked by false victimhood, the power of entitlement to point at us with their white fingers. How dare those women? The accusations thrown at us that somehow something was being taken away when all that was written was an acknowledgement and inclusion. Oh, how dare those women? Oh, how dare we? White faces turned flush with indignant fury, the taste of perceived injustice, newly fashioned on their delicate pink-furled lips on twisted faces, usually poised with civility, glaring at my colleague and me. A mission statement, a value statement, a theory of change turned oh, so wrong. Not even written by us, but to mention our race, to be included. History and statistics on our side. Tan, brown, and black people are being contaminated, abused, murdered at a higher rate. How dare we ask for equal treatment? To want to be acknowledged? Pointing white fingers, taking every opportunity to set those women back in their places. I turned to look at her. I knew they didn't see what I saw. I knew they didn't have a clue. Their faces and their words aimed at us with those pointing white fingers, it stings. Past and present, it stings, and it sticks to every inch of our mind, body, and soul. Still today, this. I recognized their faces, faces I've seen throughout my life. The smiling faces of innocent, protective white women who do no wrong. Words always believable. The smiling faces that say, I like those people. I don't see color. Lynch mobs are the past. Oh, those poor children taken away from those illegal immigrants. Not our men fetishizing, harassing, raping, murdering. I recognize their faces, the ones who wear ignorance on their sleeves because privilege blinds them from seeing how they are indoctrinated into a system made from a racist establishment. Their actions, not always their words, perpetuating a system that allows white people to covet the seats at every level. Our bosses, our nonprofits, board members, municipalities, charities, community council and assembly members, our state, our federal positions of leadership, this are barriers of injustice. When I turned and looked and saw her deep, soft brown eyes looking at their blue eyes perfectly ignorant out of choice. Those pointing white fingers was all that was needed to get the message across. Our existence, our acknowledgement, a threat. Inclusion in writing of Alaska Native, American Indian, and people of color, a threat. A threat that perhaps something might be taken from white people, white women, their white children. Still today, words echoing, bouncing off the walls of my inner lobes, dipping between the folds, protected from never escaping the confines of my skull. Over 50 years, words, damn words piercing. I just remember turning to look, hearing the poison being thrown at us. They don't want to know. They don't want to understand. Thinking they are so right, so certain, so worthy. Those pointing white fingers, there are more of us than there are of you. Spitting out those words down on our aging faces like invisible bullets, condemning our identity to death. I turned and looked from my aging yellow eyes to my colleagues' aging red eyes, we witnessing the pointing white fingers that uncovered the lie. The white fingers that pointed at us made us different from them. Turned us from human beings to a gook, to a salmon cruncher. It came out. It came out not with a rope, not with a gun, not with a fist, not with a cock, but with words. Defensive, attacking, hurtful, searing words. A white warning. Don't you dare forget who's above you. We looked, my colleague and I searching each other's eyes. And we saw that our eyes mirrored a deep and painful sadness. Still to this day, pointing white fingers owned by white women claiming to be our allies. White victims of circumstances beyond their control because of an acknowledgement. White women's tears fingers pointed at the mention of race. I write to speak to the experiences of women of color, including my transgender sisters, individuals who identify as her, she, and mixed race sisters, and how it is different from the white women's experience. Why it is that white women can see their own oppression and suppression within this patriarchy, yet they are unable to extend empathy and compassion to women of colors, complex challenges that intersect similarly within the same patriarchy. Now, with my white hair, I am told I look unidentifiable, that I could be white passing. How strange that a subtle detail as the color of my hair could so markedly change my identity. Nevertheless, white women commenting that I could be white passing, nevertheless, white women commenting that I could be white passing when I bring up race is offensive. It's offensive. They don't realize that their own ignorance, am I somehow responsible that I don't look like their stereotype of an Asian? Am I to feel a sense of relief, as if it's a good thing that I look white passing? Their comment aimed at erasing my identity and ignores my experiences. Why not curiosity about who I am and what my experiences are? I am a college graduate with a master's degree, educated in 3 different countries, the last of 5 children born to a Japanese mother and a Euro-American father. I was raised in the military with U.S. American patriotism, and yet in an era where white women assumed my mother was a prostitute because she was a Japanese war bride. Not thinking that my mother could be an educated and refined woman who loved opera, who was a published poet, and an accomplished artist. I had relatives who were U.S. American citizens, but because of their Japanese heritage, they were put in concentration camps during World War II from 1942 to 1946. I was born in August in Japan, exactly 18 years after Little Boy was dropped on Nagasaki, and Fat Boy dropped on Hiroshima in August of 1945. A country already firebombed to hell. If you don't know, these cute names were 4 atomic bombs. Only 2 atomic bombs to ever be used in warfare to this day. The damage was catastrophic to Japan. The effects still felt to this day. So sisters, if you are here today, my guess is that you are looking to give power to our right for equality, equity, and justice, to perhaps give gratitude to all women and to find common ground, trust, and unity. Well, sisters, we have work to do, we have mending to do, healing to do, learning to do, and we know this. Sisterhood is only possible when all of our stories are told and shared respectfully, honestly, selflessly, equally, equitably. Stories from our sisters of color, young, middle-aged, elderly. Sisters of LGBTQ, sisters of all abilities, sisters who are living economically disadvantaged, sisters who are experiencing homelessness and houselessness, stories that are beautiful, glorious, healing, and uniting, and also stories that are tragic and painful. like the stories from transgendered, Alaska Native, American Indian, Latinx, African American, and African descendants of slavery sisters who are missing and murdered. Our reality is both beautiful and ugly. However, we can make it more beautiful every day when we decide an effort to listen, to learn, to welcome, to be joyous, to show up and create conversation together despite our discomfort. So why is this important? Because according to a new poll, women 50 years and older could decide the 2020 elections. Well, for us silver foxes, depending, you might be really excited about this. However, this poll may or may not be awesome depending on who you are. Fact, white women carried Trump by 47%. Older white women not only vote, but they tend to be more conservative. Even in the 2018 midterm elections, according to the Pew Research Center, white women were still Trump positive going into the elections. Our saving grace in the 2018 midterm elections were women of color. Yep. Yes, you say it, women of color. Their turnout was central, increased by a massive 30 million voters. Turnout among women of color increased 37%. No wonder some fear us. So as much as women over 50 could decide the election, it seems it will take women of color to turn the tide.
That's right, that's right!
And if we are able to mobilize our youth, who tend to be more progressive, we will have one heck of a party on election night 2020.
That's right!
So campaign managers and those of you running for office, listen up. You cannot ignore us women of color. If you do so at your own peril. If you are paying attention, then you will know to engage and interact with us with genuine interest and respect. We are intelligent, we are educated, and we are organized. With climate change, the fire is at our doorsteps. If we are going to tackle the most critical issues of our time, we must have unification of every woman of color, gender, ability, age, and even across political spectrum. So my sisters, let's get the game on. Let's learn and love each other, and let's turn the tide. We have work to do. In closing, my deepest and fondest love and respect to my sisters and brothers who have made this day possible for Anchorage. As a past Women's March organizer, it's love and dedication towards a worthy cause. Lastly, thank you, Bessie Odom, for the challenge. When a door opens, even if full of anxiety and uncertainty, let us walk through it together. Thank you.